Go ahead and get started here. I'm Roy Jones, for those of you that haven't met me yet. And Stanley, Brizz is going to be presenting today on our first topic for this new monthly seminar that we're creating. I'm calling it just First Friday. And I did want to give you just a little bit of context. And Stanley, if you want to go ahead and hit the record button, it'd probably be good.
I have.
You were this
recorded.
Awesome. Well, one of the first things that that the team did after I got here is, I took a look at how we were procuring new donors each year, and of course, events were front and center. And as we looked at events and did the drill down on them, we looked at more than 35 events over the last 3 years. And we could have gone deeper. We could have looked at the last 10 years. But we kept it as relative as we could. And one thing that jumped out at me as we looked at the number of donors that were acquired is the fact that only 20% of our donors from one year to the next renew. So about 80% of our donors that have been acquired through events give one time and one time only. They're one and done. And so that's the purpose of this series, is to have us, I want to continue with an event strategy. Candidly, national statistics tell us that second gift conversion from an event donor, if you look at Association of Fundraising Professionals and other associations and agencies that work with nonprofits in this space, about our renewal rate from events should be closer to 50%. So we should have a 50% retention. And so that's what I want us to do, is kind of start this conversation. And then as a team, we're obviously going to need to try and come up with some different things to improve second gift conversion. The biggest challenge that I see is we just need to do a better job at working together. We need to create a follow-up post-event strategy that we help with here at headquarters, and really try to help take ownership of that and work with you in realizing that our goal from all of our events is not the first gift, but the second. The other thing that the statistics tell us, the other thing that Association of Fundraising Professionals and those that lead in this space tell us, is that if you can get a donor to make a second gift, their long-term donor value giving over the next 5 years more than doubles. And so getting that second gift is really, really important. The other layer that we're going to be working with you on, and I was up at Inini yesterday and talked a little bit about this, is helping with our doing the research on the donors that were acquired at the events to try to identify those that have capacity. There are tools that we have subscribed to in the last 90 days that will tell us what a particular donor's net worth is, that will tell us what their assets are. And of course, we never tell donors we use these tools. But after an event, if I can tell you who the top 10 wealthiest persons were that were attended that event, and then come alongside you to try and help with follow-up and try and get meetings with those folks, again, in terms of getting that second gift, it's going to be so critical to improving retention and putting them in a position so that at next year's event or at the fall event, you're starting with a base of people that are going to stay involved from 1 year to the next, rather than what we're doing right now is churning through a lot of names from 1 year to the next. And so retention is the key. And what I want to assure everybody of is that I truly believe, and I don't mean to preach here, and sometimes I get mistaken for a preacher, and I am anything but that. But the good book says iron sharpens iron. And I'm a big believer in collaboration I'm not going to figure out these problems by myself. We got to do it together. And so what I want to do each month is pick a topic, have one of you lead that conversation, take 30 minutes and kind of present some best practices, and then we'll take 30 minutes and do Q&A and suggestions. And then that gives me a whole lot of stuff to write down, and so that we can continue to own our strategy for not only acquiring new donors, but getting those new donors to make a second gift. So with that, that's the context. That's why we're doing what we're doing. I appreciate everybody signing on, and I've had 4 or 5 folks that just had other meetings scheduled during this time. So that's why we're recording this, and so that we can get them a copy of it. But I appreciate your participating. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the one and only Mr. Stanley and let him talk about. So you'll want to plan an event. You're up, Stanley.
Thank you, Roy. If I cannot be heard, let me know. And if you can, also remember to please put your phones and microphones on mute. I will try to get this all in our allotted time because I know how busy everyone is, and I want to allow time for questions. A lot of you are already very experienced in running events, so hopefully these are good reminders for those of you that fit into that category, and for any that have apprehension, hopefully this is a way to ease some of your fears and give you some pointers and let you know you have support. So without further ado, first thing we have to do is located on this screen. Start early. And I put some general timeframes in that as well. I know that everybody has different events and you are in different regions of the country. So not every area will be able to do the same event. So that being said, I happen to have a gala from my area, but I know others have done golf events, 5Ks. I know Inini has their spaghetti dinners. So please try to apply these broadly to what you do for your area. Some of this will skew probably more towards what I use for my event, but the principles should still be the same. So choosing a theme is very important, and that's probably one of the first things you want to do to figure out what exactly you want to do. Obviously, time, location, date. Number 3 to me is very important. Research your competition. And I say this because there are certain times of the year where you'll find there are more events than there are during other parts of the year. For us in this area, we're in event season right now. It kind of coincides with the Oscars and the Golden Globes, that whole period that entertainment industry seems to do. I think sometimes a lot of fundraisers happen in that same season. Some of it might be weather. I really don't know. But looking into see who else, what other not-for-profits are running events, making sure you're not clashing with them. They may pull from some of the people that you want to have there. So that is very, very important as far as picking the date. Then you begin creating your budget. And this notably is before you really submit to Clearwater exactly what you want to do. You'll need some of those preliminary numbers. Still in that same time period, the top you'll notice are mostly questions, really just questions focused on shaping your event. Do you need an event planner? Are you, if you're like me, you're running programs at the same time. So dedicating your time to planning an event, depending on the scope of what you're doing, might not be realistic. Will you need a caterer? Or are you providing food by some other means? Are you handing out awards? These are things that you want to have in your early framework so you'll know exactly what you need to do. Are you going to do an open ask or silent auction? Who do you need to have on your list to hit up for those things? Agencies will donate to you, stores, retail outlets, they'll donate to you if you're able to get your letters out early enough. What are your audio needs? Do you need to have a mic, speakers? Do you need to have a complete audio video setup with screens on the side of a stage? This is just the early assessment period of you collecting information just to figure out what you want to do. Do you need to rent chairs? Do you need to rent plates, glasses? These are all things that some of the venues may not have. If you're doing your event at a hotel, if you've chosen that as a location, most of those, of course, are covered. But some locations are not. Where we're doing our event this year is a beautiful venue, but they don't have a staff there. It's not a hotel. Do you need someone to host it for you? Who is your host going to be? Are they going to be a personality that's known locally that might draw some people to your event? Do you want to hire a professional to do photos and videos? You could, of course, take pictures on your phones, but some of the people that do professional photos will also freelance for newspapers. So at times they'll be able to get your photos into the newspapers or the local magazines without you having to make that extra step and request it. So you can do a 2-for-1 on that. I just made up that phrase. So here's the quote unquote fun part. Once you get to that point and you've collected all of that information, our process here at Eckerd is to submit all of that stuff on a fundraiser analysis form located on our lovely OneDrive. You can also get it sent to you by external relations, or your finance person might have it as well. And basically, you're going to do your best to put forward your best case for doing this event. All of the people that need to approve it by position are listed on the bottom of that form. And that kind of helps them ask all the questions they need to ask. They're just doing their job, not trying to kill your joy. So just allow them to look that over and maybe bring those things up so that they can say, hey, we're good with this. It looks great. They may even suggest things that you need to know as far as budget on how to limit expenses, things like that. So after that's been approved and you've got the blessing to go ahead with this event with your great planning, these 3 steps are super important. It's filled with many important steps, but these especially: recruiting a team to help you with this. You cannot do it on your own. There's times where some of us have to, especially if our programs are smaller. And if the event that you're planning is a manageable size, you might be able to do it with one other person, but very rarely is that the case, especially with as busy as we all are. I mean, for instance, several of you right now are probably multitasking while you're listening to me. So like the moments of busyness never cease. So do that. And of course, schedule regular team meetings. I would set that up early to say and agree that, for instance, we're going to have monthly meetings, or we're going to have bi-monthly or semi-monthly rather meetings. And those meetings usually increase in frequency the closer you get to the event, just to make sure things are done. And then sometimes right before the event comes, you may not need as many meetings. Maybe within that last 2 or 3 weeks or so, you might be doing more emails and ad hoc meetings, spot calls. But it's really important to have that structure early on so you can have everyone together and you can delegate tasks. And then developing a rainy day plan. If you're going to have your event outdoors, this is very important. What are you going to do if the weather is inclement and doesn't allow for what you originally planned? What are you going to do if your event is indoors, but something comes up? There's a local emergency. There's a need to change the venue. One of our venues one year had a fire happen before we got to the event. It was a hotel. So we had to switch to another hotel that we had lined up to use it. So these things do happen. Here's the fun page. The Keith Gauthier page, as I call it. I did tell him I was using his picture on the presentation, so he's aware, but I thought it'd be funny. So Keith is our resident warrior in chief. He's really good at it, making sure that everything is covered. Do you need additional insurance for what you're planning? One year, we wanted to have an aerialist, and we did get the aerialist approved, but it took a lot. I think I took some hairs out of Keith's head from that situation, made some fallout. But do you need additional insurance? Does that performer have additional insurance? I wouldn't recommend necessarily going that route, but at that point, we did get through with that. But do you need a liquor license? Is your entertainment atypical in any way to the point to where you think you would need to have additional insurance or additional conversations with Keith Gauthier about it with the risk management department? And also the venue needs. Where are you having it? Once again, our events are different. If it's a gala, your needs might all be met there, covered by their own insurance, may not be an issue. You're having it outdoors. Is it near water? Are you having it at a place where there are any items that might fall on people? Just these are the things we have to think about, and that's Keith's forte. So of course, running things by him. He'll also be a person involved in that early fundraiser analysis phase as well. Next, sponsors. Search for sponsors. So your sponsors are a really important part of this. A lot of times, waiting for the event to actually raise all the money that you're looking to raise, or raising all the support that you're looking to raise, is not necessarily the best use of the event, because you can't control who will show up at that point and who will do what. So a lot of advanced sponsor searches, and like one of my program managers likes to say, reach for like the low hanging fruit. What are the businesses that have supported you in the past? Have they donated items for the kids or for the um, people that you've served looking for work? Have they donated anything in the past, even in kind? These are the ones that already kind of understand your message. They know what you're about. And if you present them with an opportunity to give, they're more than likely to give and be a sponsor if you share your vision with them. Media sponsors as well. A lot of media companies like Clear Channel, whoever might be in your area, they have space to donate to advertise for nonprofit organizations throughout the year. It just merely takes calling, reaching out to them, finding a local contact. For your live and silent auctions, we kind of went over that. If you're doing that for your event, reaching out to companies, it's amazing how I know I was amazed when I first started doing this, about 13 years ago now, when we started doing events. Um, just reaching out and writing to some of your local places and some of the places that are great for attractions for families, they will reply with donations. Even if they haven't had a connection with you in the past, so don't be shy about doing that. What you will want to do though is reach out to the external relations or fund development department to make sure they haven't already made an ask to these sponsors. So, for instance, if you reach out to Walmart and you only ask for maybe a $50 gift card, let's say you reach out to their corporate office, at times, if they mark you off as Eckerd Connects or Eckerd Youth Alternatives doing business as Eckerd Connects, as receiving a donation, they are usually one and done if it comes from that corporate level, and they will not necessarily donate again to another Eckerd program. Your local stores are a different story. Those can usually be approached separately and independently and will still give. But you want to just check on that just to make sure that no other agents, no other program in your area is reaching out. No other Eckerd program is reaching out to the same sponsors. So I would start at the EL at the CSC level, and then work your way down to any programs that are close enough to you, so you don't necessarily overlap and um, cost each other a sponsor. This is very important. By this point, you're already overwhelmed with stuff, and so you need to make sure that you take care of you throughout this process. I am terrible at this, self-admitted. I try. I'm better than I used to be, but I'm terrible at this. So whatever it is for you, please, 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 please remember to try to do this. This is a principle throughout your lives anyway, working with Eckerd. But beyond that, when you have an event that you've added to your duties, I know how it feels. So please remember to do that. Stay connected to your families and whatever keeps you centered. So now, 3 months to 6 months out from your event, start building your guest list. That is a very, very continuous process. You'll get people along the way that want to come. They'll come through your sponsors, or they'll come through people that you talk to. Send out your save the date. I put 3 to 5 months prior. I think it's a really good time period. It has people put you on their calendar. So if, for instance, there are competing events, because you may not be able to avoid every competing event, they've got you on there first. External relations can help you design it, but reach out to other programs that have had events. You can reach out to me. I'm saying that cautiously because I know how it feels to be overwhelmed, but you can reach out to me anytime, and I'll do my best to give you any assistance I can. But do your utmost to get something out to them so that they can hold the place for you. Invitations, very important to get those out as well. But if you have the save the date out, they've got your place held. The invitations are really just kind of a follow up to those that already have, or a population or section of those who have already received the save the date. It's decorative. It builds more excitement for the event. Food, whatever you're doing for food, it's time to finalize that selection. Whatever restaurant, is helping to cater, whatever catering service, whoever you have preparing that. That's something else that you would also want to make sure, and he'll ask, that Keith Gauthier is aware of, just to cover for what you're bringing. Make sure you have options there that are gluten free or gluten sensitive. If you know your audience, that's a big thing. Vegetarian options as well for certain audiences. So making sure that you're covering all of the food choices that need to be there for your audience. These are things that also can stay on that delegation list, but you being in charge of the overall success of the event, you just want to be able to check in with your team during the team meetings and also make sure that you are aware of these choices as they're being made. Not to micromanage, but just to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening. So this is actual samples from one of our past events and for our current event coming up in Brevard, just as an example. Event participants, make sure you've secured your event participants. They're also going to be part of the draw. So for instance, the 4 individuals that we're recognizing that have given to us in the past are very well connected to the community. We've built a relationship with them in one way or the other. One of them is the executive director of the zoo. Another one is tied in with the not-for-profit sector in our area, and just a very, very, very good philanthropist, loves giving back to the community. So just tying in with those individuals that you're going to have as part of your event if you're doing a recognition event. The thing I'll tell you that's good about a recognition event is, depending on your area and how frequently it's done, it can be very, very good to bring in more support. Some of the people that will come to that recognition event necessarily, they may not have a connection to Eckerd. They may not necessarily know all of what you do, but they might be coming just to see these people, just to connect and network themselves. That's okay. When they leave, you want them to know more about what you're doing, but whatever brings them there, they're in the door and you have your opportunity to present your message. In the center, we have featuring those we serve. That is very, very, very impactful for people to actually see the families, to see the adults, to see the children that you are helping every day and making sure that you present their story in a way that touches them. We've got a lot of history with doing that well across the organization. So there are people that can be reached out to for support on how to do that effectively. Next phase, the next portion of this phase, media. So getting your message out. You've sent out your save the dates, but you want to continue to gently and periodically remind people of the event and why they should go. Using social media is, of course, an amazing way to do so, whatever avenue or venue you choose to do. Of course, you always want to make sure that our logo is presented the proper way. So you'll check with external relations to make sure that they're okay with the graphic design. But it's just very important to get it out there. Keep saying everything's important, but it is. Getting out on the event listings of your area. So there's these websites that will have the what's going on, your event calendars, making sure that you're listed on those, at least the ones that you feel are the most effective, the ones that can reach the most people that people actually talk about and look at. If you have the ability to get it on television, print media, or radio, that's fine. A lot can be done through social media and the online calendars. And then the other part of it is just telling people this your sphere. You know, if you're going to speak to your friends, those that you connected with through Eckerd Connects, and the provider side, making sure that everyone that can come support that event knows about it. The center is just a graphic depiction of our advertisement that we've sent out. We're able to get a good presenting sponsor. Once again, it's a good company as far as pulling in people that may just want to get into that company's presence and connect with them, but it's a good way of getting them to the event. Volunteers, the backbone of a good event. So making sure that you recruit good volunteers, dependable volunteers, regardless of what kind of event that you have. And some of those volunteers might be staff members, is so important because they're going to be the ones running things while you are in a daze walking around your event hoping that things are going well. It also relieves you from trying to micromanage at the event. I've had events like that where I don't think I had either enough volunteer coverage or I didn't prep my volunteers well enough. and I felt like I was doing every position at every point in the event and not really being present at the event like I needed to be. So it's so important to have volunteers there, making sure they have a great description of what they need to do early on. As you can see, this is still in the 3 month, 6 month period of our preparations, giving them expectations, and of course, showing them thanks. A lot of what they have to do, most of it will be at the event. A lot of volunteers are busy people as well, but making sure they know very early what they need to do is so important. That way they're comfortable, and that way you're not the day of the event trying to do a long volunteer orientation that's taking time away from other things you need to be paying attention to. Print collateral, whatever you might need to advertise your event, this is also a good time period to make sure that print collateral is out there, and made, designed. These are also things you can run by external relations to make sure that you're not skewing our logo in any way that makes it not look professional. But they may also have some feedback on how to better visually present this. If you're not able to get quick feedback in time for that internally, you can go outside. If it's in your budget, you can go to outside vendors. I've had to do that just to get them to help me design things. I'm blessed right now to have a good administrative coordinator who is also a graphic artist. So he's able to do a lot of this for me, and then I can just float it by everyone to make sure that I get the thumbs up. But make sure all that's done. If you wait too long with that, that's another thing that can delay you and just stress you out. And once again, self-care. I'm blowing through a lot of this because I know our time is limited, so it's a lot of information to take in. But this is so important at every level and every phase of preparation. You're not going to be good to anybody if you're at the stage of a nervous breakdown on the day of the event, just from not getting enough sleep and not resting. I've had a year or two like that where I just have not done enough of this, so I can't express this more seriously. All right, 2 weeks to 4 weeks before your event, collecting your RSVPs, see what you've got so far, making sure you've got a really good tracking system or list. Once again, all these things are things that you can delegate, but that you can still kind of keep your fingers on and do some check-ins. While all this is happening, you're still having your team meetings, you're still doing your utmost to make sure that everything is rolling forward, but you're not taking all of this on yourself. Following up, making sure all your participants, so whether your participants are the people that you're featuring and recognizing at the event, the families, your volunteers, just making sure everyone is ready and in order. Getting a layout, seating chart. This is once again for a gala, if you look at the one I've shown you on the bottom left. But if you're having a 5K, if you're having any kind of a cookout, if you're doing an event at a location that's hosting you, a restaurant, just making sure you know the layout and how you want things set up, where your promotional material is going to be, who's manning those things and stationing those things, and do your volunteers have access to this information so that they can help get people to the right places on that day. For scripted events, you definitely would like to get that done 2 weeks to 4 weeks before the event, getting your script or your event, your order of events in order. That will take pressure off of you. There have been times where the day or two before, I'm still putting the finishing touches on it, and it will once again drive you crazy trying to make sure that's done while you're spot hitting other things that are coming up at the last minute. So give yourself time to get that done. Also in this time period, if you're using mobile bidding, hopefully you've already included that on your fundraiser analysis, because there is a cost with that service, but they will need the information about your guests in order to make sure that is imported in time, that there's no issues, making sure they understand the format of your event and how things are running. So although you would have contracted with them earlier, at this point, this is where you're feeding them that information, the table numbers, getting that set up. There are going to be some last minute additions. People are going to pop on at the last minute that have said, hey, I want to come to your event. And you don't want to discourage that individual, so you're going to throw them in there. But just making sure you've got all of that set up. The mobile bidding services makes that easier when they're checking in up front than if you have gone to an event with Contago. I know someone just called in. I don't know if they hung up, but see if I can try to mute them. Making sure your guest list is alphabetized, whether you do that by last name or by first name, and bringing plenty of extra copies. This really helps your volunteers, whoever is helping you. It might be staff that's helping to check people in with registration. It's so much easier if it's not only alphabetized, but also has their corresponding table number that you've also set in place. Lockbox and petty cash requests. This is really important if people are paying by cash in any way, shape, or form. You'll want to have sufficient change there. If you don't have cash on site that you can use, this is the period to kind of prep the accounting department for your petty cash request. And just doing it earlier, you could probably even do this the week of the event, but if you do it earlier, it just gets it off your checklist, and any delays that you have in getting that done are handled. 1 to 2 weeks before the event, we're getting down to the final stretch. Prepare to bring media release forms. Once again, this depends on your level of event. So if you're going to be taking pictures of people, especially clients, and using them for later promotion, you'll want to make sure you have the media release. You can bring it to the event, or you can make sure you have it executed in advance, especially with clients. Prepare a supply basket. So basket or box, whatever you need to bring with you. It is amazing the things that you end up needing the day of the event that you never even guessed you needed. Scissors, tape, labels. I've brought printers and computers with me just to be able to print out last minute name badges if I was doing a name badge event. It's amazing. So have like a catch all box with you of just stuff that you need, or you may end up needing on the side, and designate someone maybe to bring that if it's something that you can't really put together yourself, or you don't want to forget it. VIP briefing packet for board members and ELT attending. If you are able to have anyone from Eckert leadership attend your event, or a board member's coming, this is really important. If you have some people from the community attending that can be leveraged to give greater in the future, send in advance. It doesn't have to be a book or a novel, but a little brief on those individuals, to external relations or directly to the person that's attending from ELT or the board member, just so they know they can recognize that individual, greet them, and have some background on them when they engage them in conversation. Draft a post-event press release. Get that done ahead of time, just because at the end of the event, when you're closing out, sometimes it's hard to do that. This is where you're able to show your success, feature the event, and even though this is after the event, it may be useful in getting other people to check out the event next time, or at least try to find out what you do. We've even had people try to engage in giving to us after the event, after reading the press release about our event and what we do. And if possible, try to stay overnight if it's applicable. Depends on where you're doing your event. If it's at a hotel, try to see if you can stay the night before. And you might even need to stay the night of the event. That way you get plenty of rest. You're not stressed out trying to get there the day of the event from a faraway location, running into traffic or things that might occur that are just out of your control. Self-care. I won't go into this deeper again, but just remember this is still very important throughout the entire process, because at this point, your blood pressure's probably up and you're probably really just anxious. Have good anxiety from making sure everything goes well, especially if you're like me and you have a lot of compulsions. So getting there early, I plan to spend the whole day, even if the event starts at 6 or 7 o'clock, I try to spend the whole day at the venue if possible. It gives you time, you can control things as they come in, delegate to have people go get things that may not be on site. Expect distractions, and of course, try to expect the unexpected. Which, when I was typing this out, it sounded very like, I don't know, an oxymoron. But expect the unexpected to the best of your ability. Bring a big tote bag or a big tote with you of all the things you need. These are things that we've kind of went over already. Bonus item would be change of clothes, because by the time you're there all day working through stuff, you might not be in any condition to greet people when your guests actually start arriving. So be prepared with that. Also helps in the case of any accidental spills. So 3 hours to 1 hour before, this is just the time to check everything. Is your registration table set up? Hey, featuring Kelly Rossi, look at that on the top left. Another awesome person to have at your event that can help you keep things rolling forward. Do your audio video check. Make sure all of that's running. I am a big stickler for this. I've had, I think, at least once at one of my events, some video issues, some audio issues, and then you're just mortified at that moment and frozen and paralyzed with abject fear. So always good to try to get that handled before the best that you can. Do a walkthrough with anybody that you're featuring. Make sure they feel comfortable in their places. Make sure all your volunteers are in place. This is really important. Connect with individuals the best that you can that are there. To be honest, if you're just starting off doing an event, you may not raise all the money that you want to raise. The people that sponsor tables to get there may just sponsor and not do anything at the event. But the real value is really connecting with people there that can be future givers, future donors. You hear that older term, friend raising. You really want to do that. They may have other things that they can do to support your event, in the future, or to support your programs on a day-to-day basis. Like that's Howie D down there that came to one of our events that we also recognized him, I think, the following year. And I talked with him about doing a music camp with the kids. So, I mean, anything that they can do to get them invested will help them come back and also bring their friends and those that they talk to later to help support your program and the organization. Trust your team while you're there. Try your best not to micromanage, especially if they're well prepared. You won't need to do it as much. And then smile, relax, and enjoy yourself. This is what you've worked so hard to get to. So, once again, wrapping up things at the end of the big day and the following days, making sure that your press releases that you prepared get sent out, that you got your media release forms in place, and kind of brag about what you've done, what you've accomplished on social media. Make sure it's getting featured. And once again, this is a good way to bring in people that may not have had a chance to go to the event, but it also makes the people who participated feel special. I don't watch our time here. I think we're almost near the end. And this is just some post-event to-dos you can look through. Once again, posting about what you've done, planning for next time, keeping things that you can reuse for the next year. I try not to be date or year specific if I can, so that I can reuse the things that I've made, the creatives that I've made. Very important as well to have a wrap-up meeting, celebrate the successes, share some lessons learned, and make that meeting fun. As you know, you want to be serious and review what needs to be changed, but make it fun. You don't want to deplete your team with a very bad wrap-up meeting because they'll be less excited to help you the next time. And sending out personal thank yous to everyone you possibly can. Those you recognize, those who helped, anybody that you can think of that you can thank. A personal thank you letter goes a long way, just because right now it's rarely done. Emails, if you have to, can be a way to thank people, a little personal side email note. But if you can send one personally, that would be great. And once again, self-care. You're going to be kind of exhausted by the end of this, emotionally, physically, maybe as well. So making sure that you take care of yourself at the end of this success that you've achieved. So that is it. I know I blew through that, but I wanted to be mindful of your time and give you time for questions. I could have delved deeper into some slides, and hopefully I didn't glaze over anything. But I want to give you an overview, and then you have time now to ask any questions or give any feedback, and here we go.
Stanley, great job. Just excellent. Just excellent. You know, one of the things that I'm thinking about while you're walking through this, and I can't make big pronouncements yet, but I did spend a little bit of time this week with Marcella, who's continues to help us with events. One of the things we're going to be working on is trying to create companion handbooks that go along with some of these video sessions that Jeanette in External Relations will then post online, create digital content. So we've got more tools to use, and we're creating an ongoing archive of all these tips and suggestions and guidelines and checklists. These things are just so important, and you did just a great job here, Stanley. You're also happen to be in the middle of organizing your own events, so thank you for making this happen. A couple things that just jumped out at me. By the way, your comment about self-care is so important, and I know did it kind of tongue in cheek, but I think you're right on the mark. Making carving out that time, stay balanced, and to make sure that you're delegating. It's the hardest part of events, and it's the hardest thing for all of us to do is to delegate to others, especially if there are volunteers involved. And of course, everybody on this call is a volunteer. You have a full-time job, and it's not running events. And I want everybody to know we acknowledge that, and are just so appreciative for what you're doing. I started here on November the 1st. Since that time, I have met with personally around 30 donors. Our team has met actually with 79 donors, face-to-face individual meetings since I started. And, we're really focused, and all of these donors came on our file as a direct result of your events. One of the things that I'd like your thoughts on, and anybody on the call, please unmute and throw your comments out. But some of the folks I met with, not all, but some of the folks I met with, it was obvious for whatever reason, they attended an event and they didn't know much about us. And of course, the other thing that I want to point out is we're just not meeting with $10 donors. We're targeting folks that have capacity and people that have specifically given us more than $1,000. So these are $1,000 donors I'm meeting with. And I have to tell you, there were some that didn't know a lot about what we do. And so that communicated to me that, we really do need to really focus on, how can we present our mission in a better way? I know a lot of times we can't have our clients because of their age at events, but sometimes it's possible. We worked this week, came up in one of Kelly's events, a walk where actually some of our foster moms are going to come participate in the Mile for a Child, and we're really excited about that because it makes our events more connected to our mission, and I think that's really important. But thoughts there, Stanley? Anybody?
I've talked so much. I don't know if anyone else has something to say.
It just really trying to focus on how we tie. So often our events are fun, and so and there's a lot going on, but again, really taking the time to when we can to incorporate the success stories. Those kids that we've impacted, those young people that have gotten trained and gotten jobs, and really trying to connect those success stories so that people leave the event not just having a good time, but then can actually become our advocates and tell their friends and family about what we do. But
I agree, absolutely. And there's different ways to do that. Not everyone has to do it the same way. You can create a video. You can actually have the people there at the event. That's very powerful. And if you share one impactful story, because maybe you can't get multiple clients there, but just one impactful story at the right moment in your event, you'll no doubt have people coming up to you after saying, I had no idea. And then we've even had several contact us after the event seeing how they can help.
It's good. It's good.
Stanley,
I like this. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just had an event last Saturday, and I would just like to add to make sure that when Stanley talked about the follow-up, that you really carve that time out. I've spent the majority of this week sending thank yous, emailing pictures, posting on Facebook. It has consumed most of my week, but like Stanley said, it's so important that people feel thanked and valued for coming to your event, and then hopefully you get some follow-up meetings with them.
Good input, Kelly. Excellent. Yeah, it's the follow-up piece. Again, I don't want to add too much. I don't want to scare everybody to death. I promise you, part of what I'm trying to do here is we staff up, and we're bringing 3 new people on the team here in the next 3 weeks, and as we raise income as a group, we'll be adding other folks, specifically development officers in the field, to come alongside you and help with this. But thinking about follow up. I love, Stanley, your comments about handwritten notes. It's so true. and so few people do them anymore. It makes a huge difference. Emails are good. Don't get me wrong. Text message is better if you have cell phone numbers. But a handwritten note is gold. And so again, that kind of follow up is so important. That kind of the new idea that I'm floating to the group is that Angela is doing a lot of pretty robust wealth research, and after each event, taking your list of attendees, and that's why it's so important to get the names and home addresses. I want to emphasize not their work address. I can't do wealth research on their work address. I need their where they reside, their home address. But if I have home addresses, it's pretty amazing the kind of research Angela can do. And just think how powerful it would be. We meet with folks, the type of wealth research we provide, they actually provide a calculation. I want you all to look at some of this stuff, but they look at their assets, they estimate their annual income or salary. They also do a formula calculation based upon the assets they see registered at that home address, how much money they have to give away each year to charity. So what's their gift capacity? And when you know that, wow, I had 10 people at this event with a gift capacity of $50,000, I'm going to make sure I go meet those people and say thank you personally, and find out where their passion is, where their heart is, what other kinds of charities do they support. And guess what? Find out what they want to do to help us. And again, you can't meet with everybody that attends an event, but to pick out the top 10 and hopefully meet with 4 or 5 that have 5-figure or 6-figure capacity, it should make a real difference in our bottom line. You get just 1 or 2 of those people to do something special post-event, and then set the stage for pre-event for your next event. It really should help. And that's a piece that we want to be real intentional about. The one thing that I was thinking about, Stanley, that I'd like to add to your list is making sure, and again, I was thinking, boy, we probably need to edit our event analysis form, but making sure on the front end that you request from Angela a list of all your previous donors or sponsors or attendees. They're in our database if they wrote a check for any amount. And to start there and actually make that request. I know many of you have your own list in an Excel spreadsheet, names that you work with, people that you know, people that have referred to you, and that's fine. We're all going to be doing some of that, especially with prospects. But make sure on the front end, because I think you'll be surprised. Not only can Angela give you the list of those previous donors to your program, but we can also create a column for you that outlines their capacity. And so not only their current giving to Eckerd or past giving to Eckerd, but what their potential capacity is. And that just helps you to do some ranking and scoring. Might help you to say, boy, this person I've never thought of as a sponsor before, but according to Angela's research, they might be sponsor potential. So be thinking about that, the wealth research. The other piece that we're going to try and do, and I mentioned the role that, Marcella's, she's only one person. And I know she's helped many of you as an event planner, and she'll continue in that role. I'm trying to retool her background with her experience to help us with putting these manuals in place and to become a coach and a mentor so that we can expand our events beyond the borders of Florida. We're working in 14, 15 other states, and it's going to be growing. And so part of the other piece that I've asked Marcella to help us with, and again, we're just finalizing all the details on this. It's going to take us a little time, but is to help vet other event planners in other states around the country, so that we can make some recommendations and based upon our experience and our culture and the types of characteristics we're looking for. The other thing that some value that we'd like to bring to the table is trying to help you with procuring additional sponsors. And many of you know Melanie. She's going to be working with some of you. Again, when it's appropriate, we're not going to force our help on anybody. But if you could use some help in developing your sponsorship packages, if you could use some help in going through the database and identifying potential sponsors that you haven't reached out to before, or if you could use some help in just having another set of hands to reach out and make some calls, send some emails, get in front of some businesses and try and procure some sponsorships. Melanie's going to have the bandwidth to do some of that for you.
So cute.
Say again? Was that a question?
Mute by accident.
Okay. Very good. Well, with that, any other questions? This was just so important, Stanley, for kickstarting us in this process. I appreciate everybody who's hung on with us. Any other questions? Hearing none, in the month of March the 6th will be our next First Friday webinar. And our own Curtis Campagnic. Am I saying that right, team? Close? You know Curtis? But Curtis Campagnic is going to be speaking on presenting the vision. And you guys know Curtis. I've heard him speak a couple times, and I love to hear him speak. I love to hear him cast the Eckert vision. And so I've asked him to lead our next session. And so come prepared with questions. And then let me know in between time. I'm trying to get out and meet with everybody, literally. It's taken me a little time, but I am going to be doing that. But even before I get to you, if you've got questions, if you'd love to see one of these webinars on some specific topic, let me know what you think those topics would be, and we'll find one of our leaders to lead that session. Again, I'm very excited about working with you all. Has been a real eye opener to me, just seeing the number of offices that we have. I wish I could take you into my office. I've got a wall size map, literally, of the United States, and I've got a star where every office is. And, our plan includes, building out the development staff with major gift officers. Our vision, and again, I can only do this as we raise more money, is to have a major gift officer in the field alongside each one of our programs, helping with these kinds of activities and helping with donor cultivation. So I know you're on your own right now. Help is coming, I promise. The big bald guy will be by to see you, and we'll be trying to help you along with the follow-up process. I think follow-up is key with events, and that's got to be again, I think research on the front end, making sure you request the data, making sure that we're providing you the kind of research so you can do targeting on prospects for sponsors and attendees. And then on the back end, providing, really studying the data and then helping you. And again, whether it's follow-up letters, follow-up emails, helping target who you should do follow-up visits with, and then coming alongside you to help get that done. So I know it's a little shift in our strategy over the last few years, and it is another layer on this cake that we're baking. I like to call it the icing on the cake, but that's how those second gifts come, and so that's really my passion, and what I feel like I can add to the mix here is so that we can increase our second gift conversion, our renewal rate from our events. We really have to push from, about 20% now. My goal a year from now is to have that back to that 50% threshold where it should be. So with that, thank you, Stanley. Just an awesome job. I am so honored you gave us some time and spent time to work on this, while at the same time you're working hard on your event coming up here in just a few days. So thank you once again.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Very good. Well, I'll be in touch, team, and we will do this again on March the 6th.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.